Alright, so today we're going to be kind of reviewing day 1 of factoring and moving on to day 2 of factoring. So before we get started, make sure that you have the title of today. If you got one of these sheets that I gave you guys, good job. You use this sheet, you'll turn this in for your credit. If you didn't get this sheet, it's okay. Take notes just like you normally would on a separate sheet of paper. Okay. Um, what we're gonna go over today is we're gonna review x squared plus bx plus c and how we factor that out. I'm gonna introduce ax squared plus bx plus c. So this is when a equals 1. This is when a is larger than 1. Okay. So today we're gonna really focus on this portion when a is larger than 1. Okay? And remember, we're finding the roots, and the roots in a parabola are these x-intercepts. So if you're thinking of a roller coaster, it's the beginning of the roller coaster. The top of the roller coaster is the vertex, and then the bottom is the other root. Now, there's usually 2 roots. Sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's none. Okay? That's something we've went over already. Now we're moving on to just factoring. So the first sheet we're going to go over today is this one. So make sure you have that one out, and let's get into this. Remember, pause the video if I'm going too fast. If you're confused about something, rewind it. Make sure that you are utilizing this as much as you can. Okay, so first off, this is factoring polynomials when. So we can only use this method when the degree is 2. And when I talk about degree, I'm talking about this right there. That 2 means that it is a quadratic. Okay? And a quadratic, remember, creates parabolas. Okay? And they can be smiley faces or they can be frowny faces. Something we've talked about already. Okay? So this only works when my degree is 2, when I have 3 terms. And 3 terms means it's a trinomial. So 3 terms, you have 1, 2, and 3. So it only works when you have 3 terms. Last thing, the coefficient, meaning the number in front of the x, the coefficient is 1. So the number here, there is no number, so this only works when the coefficient is 1. So if I have a number there, I cannot use this method. Okay? So let me explain how this method works. It's called the x method. We've talked about it already. All we do is we take this last variable, whichever number that variable is, and we place it at the top. So c will always go to the top. The b, which is this one right here, will always go at the bottom. So the b always goes to the bottom. Now what we are going to do is we're going to see what number multiplies to c, but it also adds to b. So there's going to be 2 numbers in these boxes here. 2 numbers that multiply to c, but also add to b. Okay? And then you'll put those in parentheses. Okay? In parentheses. Now, what goes inside the parentheses is whatever variable this is will go in this and this. So x and x. And those 2 boxes will go in the other part right there. Okay, this will make sense when I introduce numbers. I know it might not make sense right now, but that's okay. Okay, so these are the steps to follow. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, I'll write this in, we're going to draw parentheses and fill in variable. Okay, so remember, we're going to draw our parentheses, and whatever variable is first, you're going to place that first in both parentheses. Okay, so that's the first easy step, not difficult. Next step you're going to do is you're going to make your x. Okay, and you're going to put C at top. And what goes at the bottom? Well, you're going to put B at the bottom. Okay, so the second step, draw your x, put a C at the top, put a B at the bottom. Whichever those numbers are, you're going to put there. Okay, third step would be to figure out what multiplies to C but also adds to B. Okay, so you're going to ask yourself, what two numbers can I multiply to get C but also add to get B? Once you figure those two numbers out, you're going to place them in the parentheses. So place numbers in parentheses. Okay. Last but not least, always remember to check your work. So check your work. And you can do this by just doing either the box method, the FOIL method. Just check your work. Okay, that's supposed to be a check mark. Didn't work out, but it's okay. Let's do an example problem. So the example problem, and we'll have the notes up above us. So example, and you can write this right underneath that little notepad, the little after the steps. So our example problem we're going to use is r squared plus 4r plus 3. Okay. So step 1 says to draw parentheses and fill in the variable. So I'm going to draw two parentheses, 1, 2. And then I'm going to put my variable in here. So remember, it's whatever the first variable is. In this case, the first variable is r. So I'm going to put r in both of my parentheses. Easy enough. All right. Second step is to draw your x. So I'm going to draw my x right there. And I'm going to put the c at the top. So the c variable, the number in the c area is 3. Look it, c is last here and 3 is last over there. So I'm going to put the 3 at the top. So let's put the 3 here. And I'm going to put my b, which is 4. Notice how the b is attached to the other variable. So my b is 4. So I'm going to put that 4 down here. Okay. Step 2 is done now. Let's move on to step 3. Step 3 says what multiplies to c but also adds to 4. So what multiplies to 3 but also adds to 4? So this is kind of a guessing game. You need to figure out what two numbers multiply to one number but also add to another. So what multiplies to 3? Well, the only one that multiplies to 3 is 3 times 1. Okay. Does 3 plus 1 give me 4? Well, yeah. So my answer would be 3 and 1. Okay. I like to put a positive and a positive here, so that way it makes it easy on myself. So now all I need to do is put these two in my parentheses. That's step 4. Put your answers in the parentheses. So I put a plus 1 and a plus 3. And it does not matter which order you put it in. I could have put plus 3 first or plus 1 last. It did not matter. Okay. And that's how you do the box method, or the X method, I'm sorry. All right. If I wanted to check my work, all I need to do is use FOIL. So FOIL is r times r is r squared. R times 3 is 3r, so plus 3r. Then I have 1 times r, which is plus 1r, and 1 times 3, which is plus 3. Notice how the middle is like terms, so I add those two together, r squared plus 4r plus 3. Is that the same answer? Yes, it is. This is the same as my example. Therefore, my work is checked. And I got the correct answer. All right. So that's how you do the x method. But remember, this only works when there is a coefficient of a 1. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a warm-up next class on just that. Okay. Let's move on to the other worksheet, which is here. Remember, you can pause the video at any time. Please do so. If you need to go back, please go back. All right. So now, this time, look, we have an A. So I'm going to show you the method to this. So this time, my degree, so the degree is still 2. Therefore, it's still going to make a quadratic. Okay? It's still going to make a U. Okay? I still have 3 terms. So 3 terms, which means it's still a trinomial. Now, the only difference here is the coefficient. The coefficient is larger than 1. So that means my number in the front, my A, is going to be bigger than 1. Okay? So it could be 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. Okay. This one's a little bit more difficult, but I still think it's very doable. Okay? So here's how this works. We use what we call a slip and slide. Okay? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the A and we're going to slip and slide that to the C. Slip and slide. What that means is you're going to multiply the A times the C, and you're going to place that at the top. So your new equation would look like x squared plus bx plus A times C. Okay, all we are doing is we're taking the A and we are multiplying it to the C. What do I do with that A times C? Well, I place that A times C and I place it to the front at the top. Okay, just like the last time, I put the B at the bottom. So this B still goes to the bottom. All right. And then again, I'm still trying to figure out what multiplies to A times C, but also adds to B. All right. So this time we have 3 steps. Main reason we have 3 steps is because we just learned how to do factoring, and that was more detailed. This one, same exact idea, except 3 different steps. The first step is to factor. Well, what do I mean by factor? We're going to slip and slide, which just means A times C, and then you're going to place that at the top. You're going to put an A times C and a B at the bottom. And then you're going to figure out what multiplies to A times C, but also adds to B. All right, second step would be to divide. And again, this will make more sense when I finally have numbers. So I'm going to divide. And what do I mean by divide? Well, I'm going to divide what's inside the parentheses by the A. Okay? So I'm going to take whatever is inside the parentheses and divide that by my A. Last step is called banish. Banish means I need to find the imposter and banish that imposter. And again, I know this makes no sense right now, but it will in a second. All right, let's do an example problem together. So the example problem we're going to do, example is 7x squared plus 29x plus 4. So that's the problem we're going to do together. All right, so now notice how I have a number in the front. I've never done a problem like this yet. Okay, so problem number, or step 1 says to slip and slide, which just means A times C. So slip and slide, so I'm going to take my A and I'm going to slip and slide that to the 4. Okay, so basically what that means is it's going to be x squared plus 29x, and then 7 times 4, which is now 28. Okay, so that's step 1, factor. Now I create my x. So let's create an x right underneath it. Okay, just like before, the 28 goes at the top and the 29 goes at the bottom. All right, so now I need to figure out what multiplies to 28 but also adds to 29. So what multiplies to 28 but also adds to 29? Well, what about 28 times 1? 28 times 1 gives me 28, and 28 plus 1 gives you 29. Okay, that works. So that's my answers. So now let's go to step 2. Step 2 says to divide. So divide. Okay, so let's put my parentheses in there. So I'm going to have 2 parentheses. Okay, the variable is still going to be x. And then what goes inside my parentheses? Well, my plus 28 and my plus 1. So remember, you're still doing the same exact thing we just did. You're still putting the x's in parentheses. You're still putting the numbers you get from the x method. Okay? So now it says divide the parentheses by the a. So what number was a? Well, 7 was a. So I'm going to divide the 2 numbers that I just got by 7. All right? So divide both of those. Now let's move on to step 3, banish. And what banish means is we're going to find the imposter. The imposter is the one that can be divided by the 7. Okay? So x plus 28, can 28 be divided by 7? Yeah, it can, right? So let's write that out now. X plus 28 divided by 7 is 4. So there was my imposter. It's gone now. The 7 is now gone because I've now reduced it to 4. Now what do I do with this one? 1 can't be divided by 7. So here's how this works. Since 1 cannot be divided by 7, bring it to the front. And now my new problem is 7x plus 1. I'll explain that one more time. All I did was I took my 7 and I divided it by both of my numbers. One of your numbers can be divisible by the 7. So 28 divided by 7, well, yeah, that worked. So there was my imposter. I reduced it to 4. 1 cannot be divided by 7, so therefore I bring that 7 back to the front. And this right here is my answer. Okay, so we'll talk more. We'll have a lot of time in class to get this secured and really well defined. I'll also show you another method in class, but I wanted to get this away so that way you guys have a video to go look back at and to really identify what the issues are in your work. Okay? All right, show me these notes. You will get credit for them, and thank you.